So I'm going to pass this on to Victoria first. Esoteric movie, and I've also put in documentary recommendations here. So one of the cool things about being on the Earth plane, I think, is that there's lots of really interesting art forms available to us that have got esoteric symbolism and uh, hero's journey and tarot and Kabbalistic sort of insertions and frameworks for building stories upon.
I'll
And
just go and
there,
get the DVD. I am listening. I'll be right back. Sorry, Victoria. I just want to
yeah,
get the
yeah, no,
DVD
no.
I'm going to mention.
Yeah.
No worries. I'm sure that we've all come across things, and maybe we've watched things later in life with new eyes and gone, "Wait a minute, he's totally talking about Kabbalah in this mainstream movie," and it becomes quite overt to us. But yeah, Victoria, please, and I'll get ready to put some titles up on the screen too. So,
Okay, first I'll start with Holy Mountain by Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Holy Mountain
Yeah, Holy Mountain.
by Jodorowsky. Yep.
I got to see a live screening of this with the director Alejandro Jodorowsky at the Egyptian Theater
Wow.
in Hollywood several years.
Wow.
But this film is full of tarot symbology, Kabbalah symbology, and also a lot of Gurdjieff or fourth way symbology. So it's full of esoteric symbolism, the Holy Mountain, and a lot of Jodorowsky's films do include kind of exoteric kind of symbols as well. Another film that I would want to suggest is Faust by the Czech director Jan, Jan Zwackmeyer.
Yeah,
So if you want me to spell that, Philip, his first name's Jan.
I've got it.
It's a great, great film.
It's
So,
brilliant.
yeah.
And then,
How do you spell it?
so first name's Jan.
Yeah.
Last name is Svan
Yep.
Kmajer,
Yep. Yep.
and that's Faust. You can watch it for free on YouTube with English translations. It's a lot of stop animation. I think maybe it was done in the 90s. I could be mistaken.
Who would know the devil drove a Skoda, eh?
Huh?
It's a brilliant film. Sorry, I'm interrupted. Please.
Oh, no,
continue.
it's okay. It's okay. I lost my train of thought.
My apologies.
It's okay. I also like The Illusionist with Edward Norton because it reminds me of Vibrato, the novel, because Edward Norton is kind of being a stage magician as well. So it kind of reminds me of that time period when Bardon was doing that in real life. I also love martial arts films, and just as a side note, because there's a lot about inner work, discipline, and kind of Eastern magic with energy and power. So that can be very inspiring. The Last Wave by Peter Waugh. That is based in Australia, and it's about a man who goes and travels to meet with Aboriginal people. I could probably list a few more, but I'll stop there so Philip can say so.
Yeah, no, wow, that's great. Yeah, I mean, you got to hang out at the Holy Mountain. That's pretty special. I mean, I haven't really done a deep dive into Jodorowsky's stuff, but I've certainly heard that there's a lot going on, and he had I can't remember what the name was, but he was also going to do a version of June, I believe, at some point as well.
Yeah,
Now, wouldn't that be interesting? Move over,
yeah,
Mr.
that
Lynch.
got bogged down, and they all left to do the first Alien film. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
But
Well,
it's a shame it got bogged down, even though Alien was good.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing is that like there's lots of things that may have come out but never did because other things happened, such as life. Apparently, The Prisoner was being filmed at the same time that 2001 was, and that's there's a whole other story I could talk about that. But anyway, I would love to hear what you've got to share on this, Mr. Philip Harris Smith.
Well, there are a huge number of excellent videos, but perhaps this one here, Hereditary, might be worth a look. Now, the same director has done another very good one called Midsummer.
Oh yes.
But But this one is interesting. It is about what Bardon would call sorcery rather than magic, and that's because people are you know how Bardon describes sorcery. You know that the sorcerer doesn't really have the correct bringing through of the divine, so they make a special stick on the full moon, and they say a certain thing in a certain way from a certain book that's got to be using hen's blood ink, and there's all these all these kind of intricate things that they do in place of bringing through the divine. That's Bardon's view, and to a certain extent, it's also mine. Although I think to a certain, it's not the whole story, but you know, if you like, they're two artificial poles of thought. Now the thing with this particular story, it's about a Goetic spirit, Paimon, and how this spirit is literally preying on a family. Now I won't go into any further than that, but what you can see is the cultists. You the first time you see the film, you can see all the events that unfold, and I won't describe them. But then when you look at it again, you can see all the cultists doing their sorcery stuff all around the main protagonists. They sort of different ones are popping up. You know, there may have been a commemorative photo with some of them in the beginning on a particular thing, and then by the end of the film, you can see that they've all been lurking around this family and doing all this kind of sorcerous activity. They interact in a certain way when the moon is in a certain phase. They say a certain thing at a certain time, and it's all to bring about this effect that they all wish to achieve at the expense of the family members. And it's an interesting contrast between the Hermetics, the theurgy of, for example, Bardon's training. I'm not saying Bardon's the only person that shows this, but you know, he's got it there as available for solo work for those that want to do it. And it shows, if you like, the other side of the coin, the people who aren't interested in that. They aren't interested in developing or evolving or learning about things. They just want loads of stuff. That's all they want. They want loads of stuff, and all this technical activity they engage in, an intricate, carefully planned, carefully coordinated, that's going on around this family to affect this family. So it is a horror story. It's not a, but it's if once you have gone through the story and you know all the stuff, and you go back through it, you can see all the stuff they do, and all the intricate ways they're inputting into the situation to try and manipulate it from what Bardon would call a sorcerous direction rather than an enlightened and theurgic direction. And that's what makes it very interesting. It's how much work is put into it by a lot of people. It's a horror story, so they're not very nice people, but you just looking at it from a technical point of view, the effort that this group of people and the way they must have planned it and coordinated it for generations. And I've said, if I say any more, I'll spoil the story, so I won't say any more than that. But it's very interesting, and if people find they like that one, they might find that the sequel to it, Midsummer, that's also it's not the same kind of thing. It's also very interesting, very interesting. And the thing I like about that one is the earth force, the expression of earth force. What the director does, for example, if a person's wearing a headdress of flowers, the flowers like look at you and smile and things like that. Now, the implication in the film is that they've taken some kind of herbal psychedelic, but then that's certainly possible. But I can certainly say that when in the past when I've been to meetings this time of year in the summer, and people have done a pagan earth-centered ritual or ceremony, I've seen that earth force without the drugs. I've never really been into drugs and magic. I know some people are. That's not my bag. And that's the other interesting thing about Midsummer, is that the earth force, the flow of the earth force, is hinted at in the film, aside from the story. So I'm very into this director. I mean, I haven't heard anything about him producing anything else at the moment, apart from those two. And I'm pretty put out that he hasn't got his nose back to the grindstone actually and produced something else. But they're quite good. I mean, there are loads of wonderful films out there, but those two spring to mind at the moment. This one in particular is, and if, like I say, if you like it, then the Midsummer one after it's also very, very good, but entirely different. There you go.
Well, wonderful, thank you. Well, I'm going to put one in because I saw this the other night, and that was Revolver by Guy Ritchie. And I do believe that a previous guest on the podcast, Mark Stavish, was actually had a conversation with Guy Ritchie. There's a picture of them hanging out on the website, talking about, because Guy Ritchie has, I don't know if he's still with Madonna, but there was conversations about Kabbalah in a very exoteric, overt way. And so there is a celebrity connection with Kabbalah, whichever form it takes. But this movie, Revolver with Guy Ritchie, it stars Jason Statham. Jason Statham plays a character called Jake Green. And essentially, it's a very... anyone watching this who is not aware of things would probably think this is just kind of some kind of weird, almost like a Tarantino back and forth all over the place thing. But on first watch, I was watching this and I'm like going, that looks like he's going up a... wait a minute, that looks... you start, like, if you have your tree of life handy and you watch this movie, you're seeing paths, you're seeing Sephiroth, you're seeing astrological, zodiacal symbolisms. It's quite interesting, and it's very... I think there's layers woven in that have not revealed themselves to me. So it's an interesting movie, and it's worth checking out. I think it's a gangster flick by certainly, but it's not your usual gangster flick. Yeah, so I just wanted to put that in as my contribution to that. So Philip,
Yeah, I hadn't seen it, so I'll have to have a look now.
yeah, it's definitely something there.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, go. Yep.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'm glad someone mentioned Dark Song. I forgot to mention that because we've talked about it so much in the chats.
Yeah.
But also Inception. I think plenty of people have seen Inception with Leonardo DiCaprio, but it's going into several states and dimensions, and that's fabulous too.
Some of those Guillermo del Toro movies, like Pan's Labyrinth, man, that was but that was both parts mystical and enigmatic, and also quite disturbing at the same time. You know, The Shape of Water is another one that's quite interesting. I saw one the other night, The Mists of Avalon.
Yep.
Which is, and you know, you've got the Merlin with Sam Neill, and then you've got you know, these things. But The Mists of Avalon was a really curious telling of that story of Avalon and Camelot and that, and lots of things going on in there. But I also think that sometimes directors are possibly unconsciously putting certain rituals or themes in too. It's hard not to see them. I know that there is certainly an esoteric insertion into a lot of Hollywood stuff. It's becoming probably a little bit more overt now, even nowadays. But you know, I think it's fun to sit and watch a movie. I have to sometimes switch off and go, just enjoy the movie, bro. Don't try and pull it apart. So yeah, but anyway, guys, hey, we're at the top of the hour, and oh, hang on, one more. Somebody's put in, as above, so below, about the philosophy. Yep. So that's another flick. I mean, that's a pretty blatant one.